we're not communicating very well. We don't really know how to talk to each other without pushing each other's buttons. And
If I'm in, if I want to buy her jewelry, if I want her to feel special all the time. If I'm in love with a woman, I think that is her fault. The words played softly in the background of a TLC montage. Robyn Brown at a wooden desk sketchbook. Open sunlight pooling through lace curtains as she carefully penciled the outline of a charm bracelet. The moment was framed like a Hallmark movie tender, hopeful, personal. Cody leaned over her shoulder, nodding as though he understood the weight of what she was creating. The music swelled. Viewers leaned in. This was not just jewelry. This was family. This was faith. This was the Browns inviting you to buy into their story literally. When My Sister Wife's Closet first launched in 2012, it was positioned as something bigger than a side hustle. It was Robyn's dream project, her leap into entrepreneurship, and her way of proving she could contribute financially to the sprawling plural family. On the show, the other wives had dabbled in real estate, fitness, or MLM ventures. But Robyn, she was going to sell meaning. She was going to sell love. The brand tagline said it all. Our family, our story, our closet. The words dripped. With intimacy, they weren't just selling pendants. They were selling a piece of the Browns themselves. The allure of a family dream to longtime fans of Sister Wives. The launch felt almost magical. Here was a family they had invited into their living rooms for years flawed. Messy, but earnest, and suddenly you could wear that connection. A charm, a ring, a necklace that wasn't just jewelry, but a symbol of resilience, unity, and faith. In love, no matter how unconventional. The TLC cameras captured Robyn describing her designs with tears in her eyes. She wasn't pitching gold or silver. She was pitching stories, a pendant symbolizing eternal love. A charm nodding to the bonds between sister wives, pieces inspired by scripture, family milestones, and spiritual beliefs. The narrative worked. Fans didn't just want the jewelry, they wanted to belong. One fan, a mother of 3 from Ohio, recalled watching that first promo with her teenage daughter. It felt like I was buying hope, she would later say. They made you believe this wasn't just about them, it was about us too. If they could make this plural family work, maybe love really was bigger than circumstance. Buying a charm was like saying, I believe in that. The orders trickled in. The website looked polished. The product photography crisp. Each item came with a detailed description about its symbolism, words carefully crafted to tug at the heart. And Robyn positioned herself as not just the face, but the beating heart of the brand. Robyn as the businesswoman on Sister Wives, Robyn often played the role of the soft-spoken, sensitive wife, the one who cried easily, who believed in spiritual bonds, who framed her love for Cody as something pure. But with My Sister Wife's Closet, she had a new identity, visionary businesswoman. Cody hyped it up too, proudly telling cameras that this was Robyn's baby. Her way of stepping into the world as an entrepreneur. He framed it as the family's future, a way for all of them to invest in something together that would last long. After TLC packed up its cameras, it was never just about selling to strangers. The Browns wanted the world to believe this was a family enterprise. Robyn may have been the creative lead, but the branding was ours. Every necklace was not just hers, but theirs. And that was the hook, because fans weren't just buying jewelry. They were buying into the Browns' narrative of togetherness. The emotional anchor. Every strong sales pitch has an emotional anchor. And Robyn's was powerful. She tied her designs directly to her personal journey. She talked about how marriage into the Browns' plural union had been an adjustment. How she had to learn to rely on Cody, to share money, to give up financial independence. She painted My Sister Wife's Closet as a symbol of her growth, proof that she could stand on her own 2 feet, contribute something meaningful, and give back to the family that had welcomed her in. Fans who followed her story felt connected. They weren't buying from a faceless corporation. They were buying from Robyn, They saw her cry on screen, they saw her sketch at night, they saw her dream out loud. And the price tags reflected that personal touch. A charm bracelet might cost $200, a pendant, $150. These weren't impulse buys at Target. They were investments in symbolism. Fans were eager to pay. Early Grace, to be fair, the business had growing pains from the start. Inventory came and went, orders sometimes took weeks. Customer service was inconsistent. But in the early years, fans gave grace. They knew this wasn't Amazon. They weren't dealing with a warehouse full of robots and 2-day Prime delivery. This was Robyn, working from home, juggling kids and filming schedules. She was learning, trying, growing. Besides, it wasn't just about the product. It was about being part of the Browns' story. When a pendant arrived, it wasn't just jewelry in a box. It was proof that you were part of something bigger, a community, a family. That's why. The stakes were so high. Because when you sell meaning, you don't just risk disappointing buyers, you risk breaking their trust. And trust, as fans would later discover, was the very thing Robyn would fumble the hardest. For a while, Robyn's dreams seemed to hold. Orders arrived sometimes late, sometimes missing pieces. Sometimes with a smudge of tarnish, but fans chalked it up to growing pains. She's doing her best, they told each other on Facebook. It's a small business. Be patient. But patience has an expiration date. And by 2018, the sheen of my sister-wife's closet began to dull. The delays that never ended. One of the earliest red flags wasn't the jewelry itself, it was the waiting. Shipping notices trickled out slowly. A pendant ordered in November for Christmas might not arrive until February. Birthdays came and went with empty mailboxes. Fans told themselves stories to excuse it. Robyn had young kids. The Browns were filming. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she didn't have help. But excuses only stretched so far. I ordered the "love should be multiplied, not divided" pendant for my anniversary, recalled Jennifer, a longtime fan from Arizona. It didn't show up. I emailed and emailed. Weeks went by. When it finally arrived, it came in a plastic baggie with no box. It looked like something from a flea market. I was crushed. Jennifer wasn't alone. On Reddit threads, Facebook fan groups, and Better Business Bureau complaints, similar stories piled up. Delayed shipments, orders missing altogether. Communication. From customer service that was vague or worse, non-existent. The pandemic excuse when COVID-19 hit in 2020. Robyn had a built-in shield. Like many small businesses, she leaned into the chaos's explanation. Supply chains were disrupted. Factories were closing. Mail was slower than ever. On the surface, it made sense. Everyone's orders from Amazon to Etsy were arriving late. But there was a difference. Amazon orders still arrived. Etsy sellers still responded to questions. Robyn, on the other hand, seemed to go silent. Fans grew restless. They weren't just dealing with late packages. They were dealing with a company that barely acknowledged them at all. And silence in business is deadly. The out-of-stock carousel. Another strange pattern emerged. Products constantly shifting between sold out and available. A fan would check the site on Monday, out of stock. By Friday, it was magically back. Then gone again the next week. To seasoned online shoppers, it looked like bad inventory management. To frustrated fans, it looked like manipulation. It felt like they were creating fake scarcity. One fan posted, "It's like, oh, hurry up and buy now. It's almost gone." But in reality, they never had the stock in the first place. The suspicion was quiet at first, whispered, not shouted. But it was growing. The emotional purchases that backfired. The most painful stories came from fans who tied their orders to milestones. A woman in Texas ordered a charm necklace for her daughter's college graduation. It never came. A military wife in North Carolina ordered a pendant as a deployment gift for her husband. The order was canceled without explanation. A grandmother in Utah ordered matching bracelets for her granddaughters. They arrived 6 months late, just in time for the girls to outgrow them. These weren't impulse buys. These were emotional. Investments purchases wrapped up in memory and meaning. When they failed, it wasn't just disappointing. It was heartbreaking. The first doubts on social media, fans started to ask the forbidden question: does Robyn even care? Because at this point, it wasn't just about slow shipping. It was about trust. Every unreturned email, every vanished order, every empty excuse chipped away at the image TLC had built of Robyn as the tender-hearted dreamer. How could the woman who cried over designing a necklace ignore dozens of fans begging for answers? How could the wife who preached family values let strangers spend hundreds on jewelry that never came? Something wasn't adding up. The turning point, one moment in particular, marked the shift. A fan posted screenshots of her emails to my sister-wife's closet, showing weeks of unanswered messages. She'd ordered a necklace for her wedding day, an item advertised as ready to ship. It never arrived. Desperate, she wrote again. And again, silence. Her post went viral in the Sister Wives Facebook fandom, and suddenly the whispers became a chorus. This isn't just bad business. This feels shady. Are they scamming us? Where's Robyn? The cracks widened. It wasn't just a few isolated stories anymore. By late 2020, complaints spread across multiple platforms. The Better Business Bureau began logging cases. TikTok creators stitched together angry rants. Reddit threads ballooned with hundreds of comments from burned buyers. The patience was gone. The grace had evaporated. And fans weren't just disappointed. They were starting to feel betrayed. Because for years they'd been told this wasn't just a business, it was family. It was love. It was trust. And now it looked like a lie. The cracks in my sister-wife's closet weren't just showing, they were splitting wide open. Fans who once defended Robyn began comparing notes. And what they discovered turned frustration into fury. Because it wasn't just about slow shipping. Anymore, it was about money. Money taken, promises broken across Facebook groups and Reddit threads. One story appeared again and again. Fans who paid hundreds of dollars for jewelry that never arrived. A fan in Nevada paid $350 for a necklace and 2 charms. She received a single pendant cheaply made, clasp already broken. Her emails for a refund went unanswered. Another in Florida ordered a $200 ring. The order confirmation came instantly. The ring never did. Weeks later, she discovered the listing had been quietly marked out of stock. Her money still gone. A grandmother in Idaho spent nearly $500 on gifts for her daughters and granddaughters for Christmas. Not a single package arrived. She called it the most humiliating Christmas of my life. These weren't rare mishaps. They were patterns. And each ignored refund request chipped away at the last offense Robyn had. The idea that this was all just innocent disorganization. Because when money is taken and nothing is delivered, fans don't call it bad business. They call it theft. The screenshots that sparked a firestorm, the turning point came when burned customers began posting screenshots of their order receipts. And the silence that followed. On TikTok, one woman held up her phone, tears in her eyes, scrolling through a chain of unanswered emails to my sister-wife's closet. This wasn't just jewelry for me, she said. This was my anniversary. My husband bought this because I told him I loved Robyn's designs, and she stole from us. Her video racked up hundreds of thousands of views. Suddenly, the fan base wasn't divided between defenders and critics anymore. The consensus was clear. Robyn wasn't just failing as a businesswoman, she was betraying the very people who built her brand. The insider whispers as the outrage spread. Whispers began to surface alleged insiders who claimed to have worked with Robyn or the company. One woman who said she had briefly handled back-end inventory for my sister-wife's closet made a chilling claim. Robyn knew the shelves were empty. She knew we didn't have stock, but she left the items up anyway. She said we couldn't. Shut down the site because we needed the money. That allegation that Robyn allegedly kept taking. Money, while knowing orders couldn't be fulfilled, was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. This wasn't incompetence. This wasn't bad luck. This was intentional. Or at least, that's how it looked to the fans. She hid behind the family. What stung the most wasn't just the lost money, it was the betrayal of trust. Fans who bought jewelry weren't random customers. They were loyal viewers who had watched the Browns for years, who had cried with them, laughed with them, defended them online. They weren't just buying necklaces, they were buying connection. And Robyn, in their eyes, had weaponized that connection. She used the show to market to us, one fan wrote on Reddit. She used our emotions. We supported her because we believed in her family, and she turned around and scammed us. The anger wasn't just about $200 pendants. It was about the feeling that Robyn had exploited parasocial trust, the sacred bond between reality stars and their fans. The cover of TLC making things worse, Robyn never addressed the complaints publicly. On Sister Wives, she continued to smile softly, cry about family struggles, and present herself as the tender, spiritual wife. The juxtaposition was jarring. On television, she was a dreamer. Online, she was being accused of theft. It was like gaslighting, one furious fan said. I'd watch her on TV talk about honesty and family values, and I'd be screaming at the screen, "Answer my emails, Robyn. Send me my necklace." The silence from both Robyn and TLC only deepened the betrayal. From customers to victims, by late 2021, fans had stopped calling themselves customers. They started calling themselves victims. Victims of bad business. Victims of false promises. Victims of a reality star who, in their eyes, chose money over integrity. The accusations escalated. Words like fraud, scam, and theft appeared in comment sections and video captions. My Sister Wife's closet was no longer a quirky side hustle. It was a scandal. Hook for part 4. And then came the allegations that would ignite a firestorm. That Robyn didn't just ignore the problem. She actively covered it up. Former associates claimed she deliberately flipped listings back to in stock with zero inventory, keeping the cash flowing even as the shelves stayed bare. By the time the complaints had stacked high enough to bury Robyn's dream, fans were already furious. But whispers from behind the curtain, supposed insiders, alleged contractors. Even friends of friends transformed fury into something heavier. Because, according to them, Robyn wasn't just overwhelmed. She wasn't just disorganized. She allegedly knew. She flipped the switch. The most damning allegation came from a woman who claimed she briefly worked with My Sister Wife's closet's back-end system. She posted anonymously at first, then under her own name when the outrage boiled over. Her story was chilling in its simplicity. I saw Robyn log into the site and toggle items back to in-stock when we had zero on the shelves. Zero. I told her we couldn't fill the orders. She said we needed the money, that we'd figure it out later, but later never came. True, this meant every unfulfilled order wasn't an accident. Wasn't bad timing or messy supply chains. It was deliberate. The idea of Robyn flipping a switch to lure more customers into buying what didn't exist became symbolic of the scandal. Fans repeated it online like a mantra. She flipped the switch. She knew. The fake scarcity theories, some fans went further, suggesting Robyn manipulated the illusion of demand. They noticed products constantly bouncing between sold out and back in stock within days. One fan documented the changes with screenshots. A necklace marked sold out on Monday, available by Wednesday, gone again by Friday. To outsiders, this might look like sloppy inventory management. To suspicious fans, it looked calculated, a tactic to trigger panic buying. To make customers rush to snag items before they ran out. It was like gaslighting the fans. One Redditor posted, "She made us feel lucky to buy something that didn't even exist." The silence that spoke volumes when these allegations surfaced. Robyn had a choice. respond publicly, deny. Explanor remained silent. She chose silence. Emails still went unanswered. The My Sister Wife's Closet website stayed live, still accepting orders. Even as complaints piled up, fans asked the obvious question: if she's innocent, why isn't she saying anything? The longer the silence dragged on, the guiltier. It looked collateral damage. The other wives, what made the situation even messier was the family brand. My Sister Wife's Closet wasn't just Robyn's name, it was tied to all the wives. Christine, by then already disillusioned with the family, distanced herself quickly. Fans noticed she never wore or promoted the jewelry anymore. Who had once tried to support Robyn's efforts, quietly pulled back as complaints mounted. Mary, ever the cautious businesswoman, appeared frustrated in subtle digs on social media, though she never named Robyn directly. But to fans, the distinctions didn't matter. They didn't see just Robyn. They saw the Browns. And suddenly, the Browns weren't a quirky family to root for. They were the face of a possible scam. The Legal Whisper Network by mid-2021 fans were done venting. They started asking, could this be criminal? Buzzwords like fraud, FTC complaint, and class action began circulating in Facebook groups. A handful of determined fans started filing reports with the Better Business Bureau and the Federal Trade Commission. One fan went viral after she posted a TikTok saying she had successfully filed for a chargeback with her credit card company. The comment section filled with people begging for instructions on how to do the same. Once the banks got involved, that's when Robyn should have been terrified, one former fan said, because now it wasn't just about angry customers. Was about potential investigators. She knew the most damaging phrase, repeated again and again, was simple. She knew. She knew the shelves were empty. She knew refunds weren't being processed. She knew fans were begging for answers. And according to the allegations, she kept the store open anyway. That idea transformed Robyn in the eyes of many fans. It's no longer the overwhelmed mom juggling too much. No longer the shy dreamer who cried over sketches, but a calculating woman who saw fans as dollar signs, didn't care if they were left empty-handed. By the time the scandal around My Sister Wife's Closet reached its peak, it wasn't just Robyn's reputation that was on the line. The damage spilled over into the entire family, especially the sister wives, who suddenly found themselves linked to a business they barely touched. Christine, not my business. Christine had long made her feelings about Robyn clear on sister wives. Viewers watched her wrestle with jealousy, favoritism, and growing resentment. But when it came to the jewelry business, her approach was almost surgical distance. She stopped mentioning My Sister Wife's Closet in interviews. She stopped wearing the pieces on camera. And when fans asked her directly online, she brushed it off with careful phrasing. That's Robyn's project. To Christine, the collapse of the jewelry line became proof of a larger truth, that Robyn's ideas weren't sustainable, and the family couldn't keep covering for her. Janelle, the silent supporter who slipped away, Janelle, the most pragmatic wife, had tried to support Robyn early on. She attended launch events, she wore the necklaces, she even offered quiet encouragement. But as the complaints mounted, fans noticed Janelle went quiet. She stopped promoting the jewelry entirely. In interviews, she redirected questions about My Sister Wife's Closet toward her own ventures, health coaching, real estate, and later Plexus supplements. It was a subtle shift, but an intentional one. Janelle wasn't going down with the ship. Mary, a painful parallel for Mary, Robyn's imploding business hit close to home. She had her own online ventures, Leroux, clothing sales, and later a bed and breakfast that had already drawn criticism. Fans who felt burned by Robyn often turned on Mary next, accusing the wives of running one shady hustle after another. Mary, never one to take criticism lightly, occasionally clapped back on Instagram. Posting cryptic quotes about haters and toxic people. But the timing often aligned with jewelry complaints, fueling speculation that she was privately fuming about being dragged into Robyn's mess. Cody, the deflector, and then there was Cody. For years, he had hyped my sister-wife's closet as part of the family's financial independence plan. He stood next to Robyn at launch parties, beaming as though she had just reinvented the jewelry industry. But when the backlash hit, Cody did what Cody does best: deflect. On the show, he shifted attention to family drama. In interviews, he made vague references to challenges without ever addressing the scandal directly. To fans, his silence spoke volumes. It looked less like leadership and more like complicity. TLC's dilemma: the scandal created an awkward tension for TLC as well. My Sister-Wife's Closet had been promoted directly on the show. Robyn's teary-eyed pitches weren't just marketing, they were storylines. So when fans accused the business of fraud, it wasn't just Robyn under fire. TLC was implicated too. After all, they had given her the platform, the exposure, the audience she allegedly exploited. The network's solution: pretend it never happened. The jewelry store quietly vanished from storylines, never acknowledged again. Episodes that once featured Robyn sketching designs now cut straight to family conflict, as though the dream had never existed. Fans turn on the family. The fallout wasn't confined to Robyn. Fans began lumping all the wives together. If one of them scams, they all scam. The Browns are con artists, period. This family doesn't need for wives, they need for lawyers. That shift was devastating for the family brand. My Sister-Wife's Closet had started as a symbol of unity. Now it was a stain that touched every wife's reputation, whether they deserved it or not. The final nail: betrayal within, perhaps. The cruelest twist came when Christine left Cody in 2021, in her exit interviews and post-split content. She never directly mentioned My Sister-Wife's Closet. But fans read between the lines. Her constant references to wanting authenticity and being done with lies felt too many like coded digs at both Cody and Robyn's failed business. Christine's departure crystallized what fans already suspected. The jewelry scandal wasn't just bad PR, it was proof that Robyn had pulled the family into her mess. And that at least one wife refused to clean it up. From dream to cautionary tale, by the end of 2022, My Sister-Wife's Closet was a ghost. The website lingered, broken and outdated, but no new products appeared. Social media pages went dark. Customer service emails bounced back. Robyn never apologized. She never explained. She never refunded the fans who felt robbed. And in the silence, the dream died. What began as a heartfelt idea jewelry line celebrating plural marriage ended as a cautionary tale about greed, trust, and the dangerous mix of reality TV fame with real-world business. When My Sister-Wife's Closet finally went dark, fans waited for what seemed inevitable: a statement, an apology, even just a quiet acknowledgement from Robyn that the dream was over. But none came. Robyn said nothing. The family said nothing. TLC said nothing, and in that silence, the story didn't die. Screw the apology that never was for years. Fans sent this same message: just be honest with us. They weren't demanding refunds anymore. They weren't demanding lawsuits or takedowns. They wanted closure. One fan wrote, "If Robyn had just said, 'I failed. I'm sorry. I'll try to make it right,' I could have forgiven her. But instead, she disappeared. That's not failure. That's betrayal." The absence of an apology hardened the narrative, shifted Robyn's role from failed entrepreneur to something darker: a woman hiding from her own mess. The theories take over with no answers. Fans began building their own. The tax evasion theory. Some speculated My Sister-Wife's Closet wasn't really about jewelry at all. They believed it was a vehicle for moving money around, writing off expenses, or shielding cash from taxes. The money pit theory. Others suggested Robyn burned through the funds on personal expenses, using customer money to bankroll her lifestyle instead of her business. The TLC cover-up theory. A growing number believed TLC deliberately buried the scandal to protect the show. After all, acknowledging Robyn's alleged fraud could have jeopardized the franchise. None of these theories were ever proven. The vacuum of Robyn's silence, they flourished like wildfire. The shift from businesswoman to villain Robyn's public image had always been polarizing to some. She was the sweet, emotional peacemaker. To others, the manipulative favorite wife. But after the jewelry scandal, the debate ended. For many fans, Robyn wasn't misunderstood anymore. She was the villain. Her tears on the show no longer read as vulnerability. They read as manipulation. Her quietness no longer read as shyness. It read as avoidance. One Reddit post put it bluntly: Robyn doesn't cry because she's hurt. She cries because it works. The family fractures Robyn's silence also deepened rifts within the family. Christine's departure became a referendum on Robyn's. Roll Janelle's distance looked more intentional. Even Mary Wan's Robyn's closest Ella seemed to retreat. And Cody, instead of defending Robyn's business, he doubled down on defending Robyn herself. To fans, that looked like confirmation. Not only was he aware of her failures, but he chose to protect her instead of the family brand. The more Cody protected her, the more fans saw him as complicit. The lingering question years later, the story of My Sister Wife's Closet, isn't just about bad jewelry or unshipped orders. It's about the unanswered question that still haunts fans. Why didn't Robyn just admit it failed? Was she embarrassed? Afraid? Or was there something deeper she didn't want exposed? The truth may never come, but the silence left behind has done more damage than any scandal could have. Because silence